Hello.
Hello.
I'm writing a gadget to talk to your app.
Nice.
So how do I look up the contents of a page by its space key and title?
Well, if you retrieve the document at the root of our REST API, it will contain a link called Pages. Follow that link and in the document returned will be a section called Search, which contains a bunch of URI templates for different ways to perform a search. There's a full description of the format of that Pages document in the doco.
No. Where's the human-readable documentation?
That was it.
So, instead of telling me how to do a simple search, you're telling me how to find the computer-readable documentation about how to do a search, but also giving me with the key to interpret that documentation?
Yes.
Why not just document what URI to call, and what parameters it takes, in a way that the programmer can read?
Well, what if it changes?
If it changes, my gadget is going to break, anyway.
No. That's the cool thing. If it changes, your gadget can read the new API and use that instead.
You mean you're expecting me to do this parsing thing every time I want to do a query?
Of course not. That would be silly. Just bookmark the query and perform it directly. If it 404s later, you can go back and reparse the earlier page.
How do I distinguish between 404, the thing you were searching for doesn't exist, and 404, the URI scheme has been changed under you?
Well, if the document with the URI template hasn't changed, it's the former.
But HTTP is a stateless protocol. You could have changed it and then changed it back.
Don't be silly.
So you're expecting me to write and bundle in my gadget code that parses a bunch of documents to locate your search service, understands your format for describing the service, and error correction code that can backtrace this stack and rebuild my client querying code every time you decide to change it? Wow, it's like WSDL plus UDDI, except I have to write my own parsers and code generation in JavaScript while vomiting into my own mouth.
Actually, no. We expect you to just ignore this whole debate and assume what the URL is. But we reserve the right to tell you that's the wrong way of doing things and not have any sympathy when it all changes underneath you.
So, the correct way of doing things is impractical, the practical way of doing things is incorrect, and you're planning on blaming your customers for it. Why don't you just commit to a stable set of URIs and query parameters, document them, and promise not to change them? It seems like you're making me do a bunch of arbitrary introspection to save you the trouble of maintaining a stable API.
But they'll change when we change search.
Well, change them in such a way that doesn't break existing clients or deprecate it. Provide a parallel service that implements the new API and give clients a reasonable amount of time to update their code before the old way is removed.
But what if we absolutely have to change it in a way that is not backwards compatible, and there's no way to keep the old service around?
Then the 99% of clients that did it the pragmatic way are going to break, and the 1% that didn't will also break, because in almost every case where such a change would be necessary, their parsers would no longer be able to understand your description of the service. Why don't you just do what every other service does? Document this stuff and promise only to break it if you have to?
Because that's not RESTful. See, read all these blog posts that explain the REST API's philosophy.
All they're doing is making philosophical assertions in a vacuum without backing them up with practical examples of how this makes a difference in the real world. Hell, none of them even link to a single successful web service as an example of the advantages of following the philosophy correctly. Now if you'll excuse me, I've got real work to do.
Glad I could help.